Good evening. The Community Commission on Police Oversight meeting for October 10 will come to order. My name is Mary Dito Swinton, the chair. Welcome to everyone who's joined us this evening in person and via live stream. This meeting is public and subject to Minnesota open meeting law. And to facilitate record keeping and to be sure that everyone can hear you and knows who's speaking, I ask that commissioners and then the public during public comment use a microphone to comment or ask questions, and that you state your name before speaking. And also, I'm told you have to move the mic closer to your mouth so it works. In addition, you're asked to adhere to the noted and announced time limits. Will the roll please be called so that we can verify a quorum for the meeting?
Chair Dito Swinton,
Present.
Vice Chair Reeves,
Present.
Commissioner Awad, Commissioner Clement,
Present.
Commissioner Gurian Sherman,
Present.
Commissioner Lohr,
Present.
Commissioner Newman, Commissioner Olson,
Present.
Commissioner Peterson,
Present.
Commissioner Shamfield, Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Sturm,
Present.
Commissioner Verpaal, Commissioner Welly, and Commissioner Williams-Johnson.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that we have 9 commissioners present, and that constitutes a quorum. The second item for tonight is adoption of the agenda, and the agenda is before us. The updated agenda is before us. You should have a copy in front of you. Well, there were copies available. And does everyone have a copy? Thank you. Please note that is Lily Hastings, oh yes. Note that case investigator Lily Hastings will present instead of Director Jefferson, so that if you could just note that as a change on your agenda. Are there any motions regarding approval of the agenda? Commissioner Gurian Sherman.
Thank you. I would like to start with seeing on the agenda a discussion of the review panels. They just started, and I don't have any information. I don't know how many have been held. I don't know. We still have to discuss how we balance police confidentiality with collecting data, how we're going to do that. So I just think it's worth a discussion for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And I would suggest, when we get to that, I will be suggesting that we have review panels as a standing agenda item. So that would be my first motion, is to have review panels a discussion.
Thank you. If we could just hold for a second. We have a staff wanting to comment on that.
Commissioner Gurian Sherman, we will cover that in the department update, briefly cover the review panel and the status.
Then I withdraw that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if this will be covered, so before I make a motion, let me ask, will the formation of the work groups and what we're doing with that also be covered? Okay. One of the things additional.
What were you going to ask about the formation of work groups, though? I'm sorry.
Well, we have the work groups on the committee. What I would like to discuss in addition to that, and it does affect the work groups, is the work of the commission. We are now into our 6th meeting after 5 months, and I'm very concerned that we have a lot to do, and we are not getting it accomplished because we are not allotting enough time during these meetings for discussion and decision-making, we have an anomaly where we are pushing a lot of the work to the work groups, and yet we only are giving them 5 minutes to report out. There's a lot of work that's been done. So I would like to see the work of the commission as an agenda item added, and then specifically how we're going to address our powers and mandates through the ordinance.
Okay, hold on, I'm writing it down. Tonight, the time is abbreviated because it was my understanding that there wasn't that much to report from work groups. That time is flexible. So if a work group says, oh, I have a lot to discuss, the time on the agenda would be adjusted. So this 5 minutes was just a time basically that I pulled out of the air for just a brief review.
That's great. I still would like to see the work of the commission per the ordinance under our power section, and also the other mandates, like that we have to respond within 120 days of any MPD policy and procedure manual change. I just don't think, I feel as a commissioner, I don't have a handle on how we're covering all of the powers, all of the mandates. And we only meet 2 hours a month. The committees are meeting only 1 to 2 hours a month. It's just not enough time to do our work. And I think as a commission, we have to address that and see what we can do to tackle it.
Okay, got it. So you are, I apologize, hold on. Your motion is to add discussion about the actual work of the commission.
Yes, per the ordinance.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I'm talking and typing at the same time. Thank you. To add discussion about the work of the commission per the ordinance to the agenda. And are you meaning today's agenda or going forward?
Today's agenda, and if we need to, going forward, but on today's agenda specifically.
Okay, there is a motion to add discussion about the work of the commission per the ordinance to today's agenda. We'll just address that now. Today's now. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved by Commissioner Gurian Sherman and second by Commissioner Peterson that we add discussion about the work of the commission per the ordinance to the agenda. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Reeves.
Thank you. If you could clarify, when you say add discussion of the work of the commission to the agenda, what is it that you mean by that? Because we discuss on the agenda what we're working on. So there's something else that you're looking to see, so I can just understand what you're asking for in the motion.
Sure. Under the powers of the ordinance, we have 7 enumerated powers and others within the ordinance itself. One of them I just mentioned, that we have to comment. We are mandated to comment on any MPD policy change within 120 days. We haven't touched most of those power authority or the mandates. And I'm concerned that with a commission as a whole meeting at most 4 hours a month, we're not going to be able to tackle those, and how we're going to adjust to that. So that's the discussion I want, is to review the powers in particular, talk about them, see which committee, which work group gets them, but also how we as a commission inform the work groups as to what we're going to do. If you look under the powers language, it says these are powers we may undertake. So we may have to decide as a commission that some of these powers we are not going to be able to do. I'm loath to give up any of them, but we may have to do that with the limited hours that we have to discuss it, both in work groups and and at these meetings. I think we need to do more working during these meetings, and this would be a good place to start, is how are we going to get these mandates and these powers worked on, decided on, and moved forward when we are not spending time during the commission meetings to do that kind of discussion and work. And I'm proposing that we do that and start that on that ordinance.
Thank you, Commissioner Gray and Sharon, for the clarification. I think it would be easier for those listening and to change the wording of this motion, because what I'm hearing you say is, how is the commission in compliance with the ordinance and the enumerated powers in the ordinance? When I say add discussion of the work of the commission, that says something very different to me than what I think you're trying to say. So if you're talking about the enumerated powers in the ordinance, and are we in compliance with those, or do we need to make sure that we need any further discussion if we're not clear on what that may be? I think that would be easier to change the wording on that motion to say something about the ordinance itself. Because when I look at that, I mean, we're already talking about the work of the commission and what that looks like. You're specifically talking about the ordinance and what those powers may look like, and if we are in compliance with the ordinance and enumerated powers. So that's a better understanding of what I think you're trying to say, so thank you.
I accept that. If you're asking to add the compliance, I accept that as a friendly amendment. It's not just compliance, it's also which powers are we going to take on? Say for the last 6 months of our first year, we're going into our second half of our 6th month. So I accept as a friendly amendment adding compliance with the ordinance as well as working towards getting that compliance done.
I
So I
will
appreciate
need
that. Thank
someone
you.
to restate the amendment, including to restate the motion, including the amendment, so that we're all clear about what we're saying.
The way I would phrase it is work of the commission per the ordinance and compliance of the ordinance.
Okay, it currently reads, add discussion about the work of the commission per the ordinance and compliance of the ordinance to the agenda. Is that your intent?
Yes, that seems about right.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? How about where this is going to be on the agenda? Would it be okay if we add it under new business? And in the future, move it to somewhere else that makes more sense, but.
Sorry. And I forget to introduce myself. I'm Stacy Gurian Sherman. I think it would be best going under, after the CCPO training and department update, under discussion.
Okay. So that would make that number 7 if adopted, and then we would just note that everything else is going to be a different number than you see on the screen, but just to be clear. Okay, is there any other discussion about the motion to add discussion about the work of the commission per the ordinance and compliance of the ordinance to the agenda today as number 7 under discussion? No other questions or comment? All those in favor of amending the agenda to include discussion about the work group of the commission per the ordinance and compliance of the ordinance to the agenda, please raise your hand. All those in favor?
I have a count of 8.
I thought I saw 9.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. 9 in favor. All those opposed? Oh, you can lower your hands. I was going to say that. That's on my script. All those opposed? Seeing none opposed. The motion is the motion to amend the agenda is adopted. Is there any other motion related to the agenda for tonight? Just a second. Commissioner Gurian Sherman.
Yes, this is Stacy Gurian Sherman. Before I make a motion, I have a question. Are we going to have a report out from the governance committee? Have they met, and are we going to have a
The
report out?
governance, well, they've met, but they're still kind of in limbo because the city clerk has a document that is not yet finished, which will affect the work that they are doing.
Then I do have a motion. It would go under discussion. It would be new number 8.
Okay.
And that would be a motion to discuss norms for commission communications and engagement with the public.
And your motion would be, oh, to discuss, okay.
Yes.
So there is a motion to discuss, to add as item number 8, under discussion, to discuss norms for, add a discussion about norms for commission, communication, and engagement with the community. Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion to discuss norms for commission, communication, and engagement with the community, please raise your hand.
I have
Oh.
a count of 5.
Thank you. You can lower your hands. All those opposed to the motion, please raise your hand.
A 4 opposed.
Thank you. With a vote of 5 in favor, 4 opposed, that motion is adopted. And it will be under discussion as item number 8. So if you want to make note on your agendas, because I am bound to forget, even though I've written it down. Okay, are there any other motions related to this agenda? Commissioner Gurry and Sherman.
I have a question about public comment and what happened with it during the setting of the agenda. Because we have email addresses now, members of the public alerted us to the fact on, I believe it was Saturday, that the agenda did not have public comment on it. I think that's startling, given the back and forth we've had about that. It did get corrected, so I do have a question. I don't know if there's somebody here from the city attorney's office or the city clerk's office.
Well, I can tell you that will never submit an agenda that does not include public comment, and so that was just an error in data entry.
Given that it was an error, we can assume that. The problem I have
Well,
is...
you can be sure of that, because that's what I just said. You don't have to assume.
Well, assuming that's true, the problem I have is, does it comply with the open meeting law? Because it does, we had no public comment on the agenda, and the agenda was published within the 3 days without it, and then it got added. So I want to know, did we violate the Minnesota open meeting law requirement for publication of the complete agenda?
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, amendments to the agenda are commonplace and clerical errors can occur. I don't believe you're in violation of any requirement.
So in light of that, I'm going to make a motion, again, that we have as a standing agenda item, public comment at the beginning of the meeting, so that there cannot be an error the next time. It will be right at the top of the agenda. There should be a template with public comment at the top. I still think it's essential that we have
Thank you.
rules that we have engagement
Commissioner
with
Gurry and
that,
Sherman,
that we
if I
meet-
can stop you just very quickly, and I want to clarify something that I should have clarified before. When you make a motion, your motion should just be your motion. And the only time that you would offer any other explanation as to why the motion needs to be there and not advocate for the motion.
Fine. I make a motion to put public comment at the top of the agenda and make it a standing agenda item at the top of the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Can I second with an amendment?
You could ask to amend her motion. You can't second with an amendment.
I was just wondering if we wanted to come, Commissioner Sturm, I was just wondering if we wanted to come to some sort of a lasting resolution, we might want to just, if commission finds it acceptable to put public comment at least before new business, so they don't have to wait till 8:30 or whatever, and then just offering it as a semi-friendly amendment.
Okay.
I accept the friendly amendment.
Yes, Director.
I just want to add that putting it at the top, putting public comment at the top of the agenda wouldn't have prevented the clerical error. So that is not a solution or a remedy to the clerical error. And that the public comment is comment that is made to the commissioners. So just a reminder that when the public comes, they're coming to speak and make comments to the commissioners.
Thank you. So do you accept the amendment to make this read, add public comment before new business?
Yes, I accept the friendly amendment.
Thank you. Is there a second? It's been moved by Commissioner Gurry Sherman and second by Commissioner Lohr to add public comment to the agenda before new business. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Reeves.
I actually like this friendly amendment because the whole point of the public comment is to be able to address the commission on what was presented. And so if they have the opportunity to at least hear it and see it, then they can make a public comment. And so I actually like this amendment to be able to have it before new business, but actually be able to hear what's on the agenda before making public comment. Thank you.
Commissioner, thank you. Commissioner Gurry Sherman.
Thank you, Stacy Gurian Sherman. With all due respect, I reject that public comment is for people to comment on what was done during the meeting. I believe public comment is better and most well-served by what the Hennepin County Commission does, by what the Minnesota City Council does, by what the Minneapolis Public School does, which is to have public comment at the top of the agenda. I'm accepting the friendly amendment, but the purpose of public comment is to inform us of what we need to discuss and not simply have the public commenting on what we talked about. So with that, I just disagree with the premise of what public comment should be.
Thank you.
If I'm
Commissioner Vorpal. Vorpal.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
So even if we pass this, you're going to set an amendment every week or every month to still push it to the front of our meetings?
I'm not going to comment on future action.
Thank you. Commissioner Reeves.
Thank you, Commissioner Reeves. And so I will say that Hennepin County doesn't even broadcast their public comments, so that was an interesting comparison. But what I will also say is, if your comment is that the public comment is meant for the public to address the commission and then we change the agenda, is that what you were trying to say? Because it's for us to then make comment on, or then you're saying that we would change our agenda based on the public comment. And so that, I don't think would happen at that meeting because we would already have voted on the agenda. So I'm not clear on what you meant by that, if you could clarify.
I rarely have seen public comment change the agenda, and with the three entities that I've mentioned and that I have been following for 5 years. So I don't think that's likely. I think most members of the public come in commenting on what's already on the agenda. And if they want to see something added to the agenda, then they'd have to get a vote of, they'd have to get one of us to propose it, second it, and pass it as a whole. I rarely see that happen.
Is there any other discussion or are there any questions about the motion to add public comment to the agenda before new business? I have a comment. I'm somewhat ambivalent about this. However, I do want to point out that moving it before an agenda item still leaves the unpredictability of when we get through the bottom of the agenda. So, are there any other questions or comments? Commissioner Shanfield.
I'm just wondering if we could try it this tonight and see how it works, and then make a decision going forward.
Commissioner Gurry Sherman.
I agree with that, and Commissioner Vopal, I didn't mean to sound disrespectful. I just don't know. I think if we try something new, we compromise, we can go forward. I think Commissioner Schoenfeld's suggestion is well taken. Let's see if it works.
Commissioner Clement, I don't think trying it tonight is a good idea because everybody from the public might not be here yet because they were anticipating that it was going to be at the end of the meeting. So maybe we do like a roll, if this is that sheet. I see names on here for public comment, or was that from meeting notes? I'm sorry.
That's probably for meeting notes. The
Oh.
public comment sign-in sheet's in the back still.
Then are we gonna give them the opportunity if they come at the end of the meeting tonight to talk? If somebody walks in late?
If it is not on the agenda, no.
I say we try it next time, but I'm cool with whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vorpal.
I feel like we waste a lot of time on this conversation every month, and we highlight a lot of important things and topics that we have to talk about, and we spend 30 minutes trying to adopt our agenda every month. I feel like our resources can be, our time is very important if we only meet 2 hours every month. I feel like we need to move past this because it's getting childish at this point to continue to have this conversation. It's on our agenda. I understand it was a clerical error for this to be forgotten on it, but at the same time, there's so many other important things that we need to talk about.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson.
Yes, Commissioner Paul Olson, I agree with Commissioner Vorpal, and that's why, excuse me, that's why I'll vote no on this.
Thank you. This is going to be our last comment. It is 6:30. Commissioner Gurian Sherman.
Yeah, I take personal offense at being called childish. I think it's disrespectful and it's misogynist.
Thank you. There is a motion to add public comment to the agenda before new business. I believe it was made by Commissioner Gurian Sherman, second by Commissioner Lohr, just repeating for the record, thank you. To add public comment to the agenda before new business tonight. All those in favor of the motion to add public comment to the agenda before new business, please raise your hands.
Count 5.
Thank you. Thank you. All those opposed to the motion to add public comment to the agenda before new business, please raise your hands.
The first part of the motion said tonight. I just wanted to clarify, which is why I didn't read. So it was for tonight? Or
This is for tonight.
Okay, because the second part was not said tonight. Okay,
No, we're voting on tonight's agenda. Can we just take a revote? Is that okay? Let's start over, and I will try to be more clear. It was moved by Commissioner Gurian Sherman and second by Commissioner Lohr to add public comment to the agenda tonight before new business. All those in favor, please raise your hands. I see 4. Thank you. You may lower your hands. All those opposed, please raise your hands. I see 6. Thank you. At 4 in favor and 6 opposed, the motion fails. Okay, we still have not approved our agenda for tonight. Is there a motion to approve the agenda, which at this point has 2 additions to it? It has add discussion about work of the commission per the ordinance and compliance of the ordinance, and as item number 7, and that would be under discussion. And the second amendment addition has been to discuss norms for commission communication and engagement with the community, and that would be number 8 under discussion as well. Is there a motion to approve this amended agenda?
so moved.
Commissioner Reeves has moved to approve the amended agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we're gonna give Commissioner Peterson, she's second, the motion to approve this amended agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the amended agenda for tonight, please raise your hands. Was that 10?
I counted 10.
Okay, thank you. 10 in favor. Any opposed? No opposed, no opposition, rather. And therefore, the motion is adopted, and we will move forward with the amended agenda. All right. Item 3 on the agenda is acceptance of the minutes for September 11, 2023. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Was that Commissioner Reeves?
Yes, Commissioner Reeves, so moved.
Thank you. It's been moved to accept the minutes from September 11th by Commissioner Reeves. Is there a second? Commissioner Vorpal, second the motion. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Gurry Sherman.
Again, I want to thank everyone who did the minutes for putting in our email addresses. I note that your presentation in front of the lunch with Lisa, with City Council member Lisa Goodman, wasn't under the reports. I think it should be added. It was a very good, solid presentation. You shared the PowerPoint slide. It's not mentioned in the minutes, but it was on the agenda. So I think that that needs to be added. And also, I specifically asked Director Jefferson, would the slides, I believe it was 9 slides he provided, would they be provided in his discussion that he gave? I'm thrilled and very grateful that in the minutes, if you look them up online, he has given the links to 3 really excellent reports and studies, but we don't have the PowerPoint.
The PowerPoint was linked to the agenda. So if you go to the September 11 agenda, it's linked there. And I believe you also should have received it by email.
We didn't receive it by email. I didn't see it linked in the agenda. That doesn't mean it wasn't there.
It's there. I saw it. If somebody, Ms. Watts, did I make that up?
No.
Okay.
It's linked there, and
It's in the September 11th agenda.
Yes. It's in the agenda.
Okay, I'll look that up. I would make a friendly amendment that we include your presentation in the minutes, that it did occur, that it was part of the minutes, part of the agenda, and was discussed. I think it should be in the minutes. Thank you.
Can we add a link to that PowerPoint in the minutes under chair report?
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion or suggestions about the minutes from September 11th? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to adopt the minutes from September 11th with the noted amendment, being adding a link to the lunch with Lisa presentation, please raise your hands.
I count 9.
Thank you. You may lower your hands. All those opposed? I see 1. Thank you. With 9 in favor and 1 opposed, that motion to adopt the minutes has been adopted. All righty. We are now to item 4 on the agenda, which is introduction of city staff. And if you all would use the mic and get kind of close to it and say your name and your position, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Alberta Gillespie, Civil Rights Director.
Thomas Struck, Video Analyst, OPCR.
Hello, Rumiana Himquist, Program Assistant.
CU Samantha, Program Assistant at OPCR.
Elena Starr, Case Investigator.
Lillian Hastings, Case Investigator.
Shanice Swats, Program Assistant.
Joel Fussy, City Attorney's Office.
Thank you. Number 5 on the agenda. You should also all have this to review the meeting norms. Number 1, meeting materials will be shared on time. Number 2, suggested agenda items will be shared in advance of meetings. Number 3, read and share materials prior to meeting. Number 4, participate in discussion. Number 5, ask questions for understanding. 6, implement time limits on presentations, discussions, etc. 7, respect opinion of other commissioners. 8, abide by decisions of the commission. 9, avoid personal comments. 10, speak one at a time and when recognized. 11, be concise. 12, notify chair when a meeting or training absence is necessary. Okay. Number 6 on the agenda, and if you will recall, this is where
I have a comment on
okay.
the norms,
Go
if I
ahead.
may.
Yes.
Thank you. This is Stacy Green Sherman. There's no point in having norms if they're not going to be enforced. And I'm sorry, Commissioner Volpal, but calling my amendments to the agenda childish and addressing that to me as a woman, I find that violates the respect, my opinion, and it also got into personal comments. Not one person spoke up against that. So if we're going to have norms, they need to be enforced. I'm sure if I had said that about another commissioner, it would have been tagged. So I feel very disrespected at this point, 1 at the comment and 2 at the lack of enforcement.
I could not agree more, and I will take responsibility for not pointing out comments in previous commission meetings that I and others have felt violated these norms, and we will just all strive to do better.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Oh, where'd that come from?
It came from over here. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
I hear what the commissioner is saying, but those comments should be addressed to the chair and not to an individual commissioner.
I'll consider them addressed to me. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yes, Commissioner Gurian Sherman.
I respect your opinion. I don't accept what you're saying. If we see something happening during a meeting, we should be able to address it. We are the commissioners. We get to speak out. We do not have to abide by the opinion of the staff.
Well, the opinion of the chair is that there is a way for you to speak out and still address it to me. So that's coming from me. I mean, it's easy to say, Madam Chair, I object to the comment that was just made and state your objection. So I don't take issue with comments needing to be addressed to the chair. Commissioner Vorpal.
I don't believe offering the same amendment every single meeting is abiding by the decision of the commission. I will stand by that.
Thank you. Are there any other discussion, or is there any other discussion about the meeting norms? Okay, hearing none. We are now to item number 6, which is CCPO training and department updates, which will be given by Lily Hastings. 1 or 2 Hastings? Hastings, thank you. Hastings, thank you. So just make a note on your agenda that Director Jefferson is not presenting this.
Is it working? Okay. So again, I'm a case investigator with OPCR, and my name is Lillian Hastings. I'm stepping in for Director Jefferson this evening. So we have a lot that has been happening with our department in the past month since we've seen you all, so we're going to take it in chunks here. And I would ask for questions to be at the end. If I cannot answer the questions, I will just guide you to ask those directly to Director Jefferson or Director Gillespie. So first of all, we are growing. We have had many new people start this month. We have added 2 project coordinators, as you met this evening. We've added 2 BWC analysts, 1 you met this evening, 1 who is unavailable to come. We also added 3 case investigators who started this morning. And we have an additional case investigator coming in November. So that's new staff. Moving on to the next chunk, which is complaint forms. We have done a pretty complete overhaul of our complaint forms. We realized that our online form was not the same as our paper form, so we made those the same to comply with city standards and all legal standards as well. So our online fillable form in English was updated this month. The language was made clearer, categories were organized better, just so that we have overall clear communication of what we are asking for from the public and clear communication from them to us what they are actually saying. Our online fillable form for other languages, we are working on translating. There are 6 languages that we are required to translate through the limited English proficiency plan from the city. Those are Spanish, Vietnamese, Laotian, Somali, Oromo, and Hmong. We're still working on getting those translated for the online form, but we will have those as soon as available. Additionally, from a community partner, we had a request to make that translatable for Ojibwe. We are working on that as well to see if that is an option. Okay, so our online PDF of the English version, so if somebody wanted to print it off, we updated that, made sure that was covered. Again, just the changes were language, making things clearer, making things match between the online and the paper versions. We also added a dual file box that was available on our online form that we did not have available on our walk-in form. That dual file is for if anyone would like to report discrimination so that we can automatically give that to the Complaint Investigation Division in the Civil Rights Department. So that has been added. For the PDF, we're still working on getting the translations for all those 6 languages, plus hopefully Ojibwe as well. And then lastly, all of our other working documents. If we start the process in additional language, we are working on getting all of our working documents translated so that we can continue the progress in the conversation that the citizen is requesting. Okay, so then moving on to community engagement. So we have been working with the Unity Community Mediation Team. This team is a group in Minneapolis that has been working for a long time on police reform in Minneapolis. This group generally consists of different cultural groups. They are made up of local churches, nonprofits, cultural centers that have all come together to address these issues. So we have been working with them. They are setting up sites within their cultural centers to take our complaints. So if people do not feel safe coming into our office or to a police precinct, they can come into these cultural sites and have a welcome, familiar face greeting them to be able to take their complaints. So we have met with them several times over the past few months to get that process ready to go. We've also trained them on what we would like to see for a complaint and what is helpful for us, so that they can fill out the best complaint forms that they can with the information that they have. And we've set up a process for them to streamline getting that information to us from them. So that is all good. We also would like to invite them to come to speak with you all about their work, what they're doing. They're doing far more than just taking our complaints, so that is just a heads up for a future meeting. Our staff also met with the Minnesota State Representative Frazier to talk about state law amendments that we would like to see happen. So we had that meeting as well. We'll move on to CCPO General Business and Review Panel. So as you all have heard already, our city email addresses have been posted for the public to view. It's on the website, it's on the minutes from the last meeting. All that should be good. With a cursor, please check your city email address regularly. You will start to be getting scheduling notices for the review panel, in which case we need people to be checking those as soon as possible. Okay, with training, MPD is hosting officer discipline and MPD discipline matrix training for the review panels with sworn members and CCPO on October 13th. This meeting will not be recorded. It will be in person. If you are unable to attend, a makeup session will be hosted. You will not be able to be on a panel, though, unless you have received this training. So there will be an attendance sheet. Additionally, MPD use of force training for CCPO members will take place tomorrow evening, October 11th at 6 p.m. in here. We also have a NACOL training that we sent out. NACOL, the National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. There is a suggested training on October 16th called Group Stages and Dynamics, What to Expect When Working on Boards and Commissions. This was sent out last week. We're working on getting a confirmation for the reimbursement that Commissioner Gurry and Sherman asked for that, so we will communicate once we have an answer. Okay, review panels. So we had our first panel on September 28th. 2 cases were heard and have since been passed to MPD Chief O'Hara for his review. So we are in compliance with that step. More panels will be scheduled after the discipline training and use of force trainings are completed. So again, if the commissioners have not completed that, they will not be scheduled for those. OPCR staff are working on getting updated panel instruction sheets and panel recommendations form to comply with the settlement agreement and city ordinance changes. You will see that once you are scheduled. We are not going to send that out unless you are scheduled. So that should be it for review panels. And lastly, parking vouchers for the CCPO meetings. Parking is reimbursed. Vouchers should have been given to you already this evening. If they have not, we have them. Okay, we will get them. So that is all.
Could you explain where commissioners should park to use this voucher?
Janice?
So it's the Jerry Hoff ramp.
Thank you. Commissioner Lohr.
Thank you, Commissioner Lohr. I have a question about the training on the October 13. I noticed that was offered at 1 p.m. and that's required before we can serve on panels, and that's sort of a challenge for a lot of us who work sort of a 9 to 5. Is the alternate going to be offered outside typical working hours?
I cannot answer to what the alternate will be. This was a discussion that we tried to ask for that to be recorded, and it's not able to be recorded at this time. So the compromise was just to have the makeup session.
Okay, I'd like to lodge a formal request that it be after 5 p.m. if that's at all possible.
Right, thank you.
Was your question about the NACOL training? Oh, okay. Thank you, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, I'm not sure which one was. There was one that was 1 p.m. that we were not able to do.
For this Friday.
Right.
Yeah, for this Friday.
Right.
Thank you.
Where is that training going to be? It says it's on Teams in the invite. That's why I'm confused. But it's not virtual.
That training is virtual on Friday. The training on the 11th, tomorrow night, is not virtual. Sorry.
Commissioner Clement.
Did you say Mrs. Wyatt sent that out so I can know in Outlook where to look for that? I don't see that I was on a training invite for the 13th.
I did send it to your city email, but if you don't have it, I will resend it to you. Okay.
Is that the one that came from you on behalf of some, okay, it's kind of a weird looking email. Are there, yes.
Oh, I'd also like to say that I think you said the NACOL training wasn't reimbursed, or you weren't sure yet, but we did receive an email that it is.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Commissioner Sturm.
I had a question you probably can't answer, but it's been in the news that the chief has been hit with complaints. Was that through OPCR, and are we going to be seeing those? Or is that internal affairs?
I don't believe I can answer that. Director Gillespie, can you answer?
I can say just what you said. And you're right, we cannot answer that for legal reasons, and you see Joel just saying, nope, we cannot answer that at this point. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, correct.
Just FYI, I asked this question a while ago, and I got the same, nobody's going to come talk about this because they can't talk about it, so. Commissioner Peterson.
Commissioner Peterson. Following the discipline training on Friday, hypothetically, if there was merit found on a case or cases that were previously reviewed, will they be given back to the review panels to give determination on discipline?
No, those will be moving forward as they were.
Thank you. Yes,
I do want to go back to the commissioner's question. We can't talk about it now, but I wanted to make it clear, once it's resolved, we will be able to then give you information. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay.
I think it's helpful. Thank you. Who had it? Oh.
Just wanted to clarify, it is the Friday, the MPD, the matrix training that is the required training?
Right, and then the use of force as well.
Okay.
Commissioner Gurry and Sherman.
Thank you. I appreciate your presentation. I didn't quite hear everything, and I apologize. So what trainings remain for commissioners to be able to conduct panels? And then I have a follow-up question.
So these two are what we're requiring at this moment to continue on with a panel. If a panelist has only taken the discipline matrix and has not taken use of force, they will not be scheduled to hear a use of force complaint.
Okay, we still have not had the race, equity, and inclusion, which is a mandated training, and we are going forward with the panels. When can that be expected to be provided and in line with what Commissioner Lohr said, at a time where we can all attend?
Right. I cannot answer that question, so I'll direct you to ask that question to Director Jefferson.
I can address that question. So it's that training is not mandated for you for review to be on a panel. It is said that is a training that you have to participate in. It does not say, the ordinance does not indicate that it's something that needs to happen in order to participate on a panel. That training also can only be conducted by the Race, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Department in the city, so we cannot have someone outside of the city provide that training. Some of you may not know, 2 weeks ago, we just hired our Race, Equity, and Inclusion and Belonging department head, and so that training doesn't exist, therefore we cannot train you on something that doesn't exist.
I'd like to follow up. Could you point out the language in the ordinance that says that that training is not necessary for review panels?
Could you point out the language in the ordinance where it says that it is?
You are saying it's not, and
it's not
absent
required.
absent any language that it is not required for review panels, given the totality of the ordinance, which breaks down our authority to do review panels and to do powers and mandates, taking the totality of the ordinance, which is the way the courts would rule on that, then you assume that a training that says it's mandated is needed for both functions.
If I may, refer back to the norms. We did have a presentation, Commissioner Clement, we did have a presentation by, I feel like it was the city clerk's office last month, or that one gentleman that was here and presented, and he did clarify that we only need to do it annually and not prior to the panels.
I respect what you're saying. I don't go for it. Unless we have authorizing language that says it's not for that, it's an opinion based on, without documentation.
Commissioners, if I can interject, I think we have already established that we are not going to agree on what it means in this ordinance where it says all members shall complete an annual training session that covers the following subjects. We are not going to agree what annual means. I have received comment that it just means sometime within the year, and if you'll look at in that section right under number 8, it says, to the extent training is not conducted during regular meetings, plural, of the commission, members will be compensated $50 for each mandatory training session attended. And the reason I received the comment that nobody thought we were going to get all these at one time is because it wouldn't be referenced here during regular meetings in plural if it was going to happen all at once. And I will further state that if you, again, and we've said this all along, if you feel like you're unqualified to sit on a panel, then refuse the placement.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, if I might address this. I will say just once, and this is a matter that's been covered before, and I would note that there may be a disagreement, but I don't think it's appropriate to continually come back to the same matter. The ordinance says that there are mandatory training topics that have to take place within an annual basis. That does not mean that it has to happen before you are seated or before meetings occur. That is the interpretation of the City of Minneapolis, and it's not going to change. Thank you.
Thank you. And if this could be our last comment, I think that would be wonderful. Commissioner Gurian-Sherman.
Yeah, I have several more questions. I didn't hear any announcement about tomorrow's presentation before the City Council's Health and Public Safety Committee on the progress of the CCPO. Is there any reason why we haven't been provided with that information? And I'm just going to pass out the agenda for that meeting tomorrow, where I have pointed out.
Can you clarify what it is you're asking?
I'd be happy to. So tomorrow, the Public Health and Safety Committee has a regular meeting at 1:30 in room 317 of City Hall. The agenda was published. It says under discussion, item number 3, Community Commission on Police Oversight Update, receiving and filing a report relating to ongoing efforts to operationalize the Community Commission on Police Oversight. As a commission, I'm concerned that it's not in the agenda. I don't know if the chair knew about it. It sounds like you didn't.
That what's not in the agenda, that's what I'm missing.
The fact that there's going to be a presentation on the CCPO before the City Council's Public Health and Safety Committee tomorrow. So I'm wondering why we're not apprised of that. Who's going to be making the presentation, and who is submitting the report that has either been provided or will be provided? So those are my 3 questions. 1, why weren't we told? 2, who's doing the presentation, and is there a report? And if so, it should be circulated to us.
Right. Thank you for your question. I'm going to pass it to Director Gillespie.
I have a motion, and I've never made a motion at this meeting before, so if I do it wrong, please correct me. And I don't know how I could word it, if you could maybe help, that if we do have questions that are related to trainings or to meetings, or that questions that are off-topic agenda items, that maybe we direct those questions to Mr. Jefferson or our chair or Mrs. Reeves, instead of using the meeting's time to go over those questions or concerns that are personalized.
Okay, it's been moved that And Commissioner Clement is going to repeat what she said if,
To save our questions or direct our questions via email to the professionals that they should go to. That way they have their 24 to 48 business hours to respond, to get accurate information out there where they can run it by the powers that be. And that way we look much more organized within the public eye and within our meetings.
thank you. Did you get that motion? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second. Commissioner Reeves.
Thank you. We have a motion that we just heard from Commissioner Clement, and it was second by Commissioner Reeves. Is there discussion? Commissioner Gurian Sherman.
The agenda item says CCPO training and department update. This isn't personalized. This is a meeting about our commission before a city council work group. I know that you're a stand-in. I fully expected Director Jefferson to be here, and in his absence, to get those questions answered. It is part of the department update, and I'm assuming by department, it means OCPR as well as civil rights. And to be told I can't ask that question during a presentation by the OPCR is ridiculous. It's once again trying to hide what we do.
And again, since we're pointing out things that we feel are violations to our meeting norms, if we could stop using the adjectives, ridiculous, unnecessary, all those things, I would appreciate it. Commissioner Reeves.
Thank you, Commissioner Reeves. So as I'm looking at this agenda item, I'm not sure, this is obviously the city council's agenda. It's not our agenda. So I'm not expecting the chair to know why city council put something on their agenda. So in response to the current motion on the floor, it would be appropriate to give someone some time to figure out why and the reason why they have to come forward in a report by someone in staff or the director's report. But if we don't know why, we need to at least investigate why, and so we need time to do that. So that's why I supported the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions about this motion that Commissioner Clement stated? Okay, seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, would you like it read again? No, okay. All those in favor of...
So I would like it read again.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what I have is if you have questions regarding training, direct them directly to Director Jefferson or city staff so they have time to respond.
To make a clarification, I mean questions on anything other than what's on our agenda during the meetings. Just any questions at all that can be asked to directors to give them adequate time to respond so that way we can do the community's work, because sometimes people don't always have the answers right away and we spend a lot of time on that.
Did we all get that clarification of the motion? Is there a question?
I don't know. It seems to me what we're saying is we can decide that something isn't appropriate because the motion is so vague that if we don't like what you're saying, we're going to say you have to put it in writing. And then other people will get to ask their questions. So I think it's vague and it's arbitrary, and I don't even see how it's going to be enforced.
Thank you. If this could be our last comment from Commissioner Reeves.
Thank you, Commissioner Reeves. Again, this is not our agenda. And so if we're going to address things that we've already approved our agenda, so if there was something else that needed to come up, that should have been addressed at the beginning of the meeting when we asked to approve our agenda. This is not our agenda, so I would ask that we give people time to answer the question. Thank you.
I know you said last comment. I don't know if you want me to just add on to that or not.
Go for it.
I will. Okay. And so to the Vice Chair's point, this is not your agenda. And so the Civil Rights Department and the OPCR staff, we report and update numerous groups and bodies within the city. And so about the work of the CCPO, because that's our responsibility. And if people are interested in knowing what the Public Health and Safety Committee agenda is, I think they can do just what you did, because that wasn't sent to you. It's publicly available, because we do have rules that we abide by, so that all of that information, it is public, so we couldn't hide it because it's public. And just so you know, what will be presented, or what we were planning on presenting, Director Jefferson is out ill, to that committee was the exact same update that you received at your last meeting. We wanted to share that information to our home committee, which is the Public Health and Safety Committee, because we are required to keep them updated as well.
Okay, thank you. There is a motion on the floor. It's been moved and second. All those in favor of this, I'm going to ask if you could read it one more time, just.
So if we have questions regarding any items outside of the agenda, to address those questions via email to Director Jefferson or city staff.
Thank you. All those in favor of this motion, please raise your hands. I see 5.
I see 5 as well.
And all those opposed? I see 4.
I see 4 as well.
Thank you. With 5 in favor, 4 opposed, the motion is adopted to, please read it one more time.
Okay, let me, hold on. Scroll back up. Okay, if you have a question regarding any items that are not on the agenda, to direct those questions via email to Director Jefferson or city staff.
Thank you.
Could we just clarify, the vote was 5-4? Does that mean one person wasn't voting?
I typically am not voting unless it's to break a tie. Oh, I guess somebody didn't vote, and that's their prerogative. Yes, Commissioner Gurian-Sherman.
Yes, I have a motion, and that is, given what Director Gillespie said, I would like to be notified of simply putting it in the chair's report, sending it to you, sending it to the chair, the meetings where the CCPO is under discussion, and by any community group or the city council that is known to the Office of Civil Rights or the Office of Police Conduct Review.
Madam Chair, as has been noted,
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Sorry. Is there a second for the motion for the CCPO to receive notice if the CCPO is going to be discussed at city meetings?
Or community.
City or community meetings, thank you. Is there a second? Hearing none, that motion fails. And no, okay. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for Lily Hastings regarding OPCR? No. Yes, OPCR and trainings. Yes. Commissioner Reed.
Commissioner Reeve, just out of curiosity, this training for Friday was kind of short notice. Will the next training that will be makeup be more notice so that we can try to make an attempt to attend?
Yes, we will give more notice as it is available to us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Gurian-Sherman.
Quick question on the documents that you were talking about, that you're trying to align them online in PDF. Is that the complaint forms in particular? Okay. And then the second question was on staffing. With the new staffing that you have, what will you be able to do and provide to CCPO that you haven't been able to do up until the hiring of that new staff?
Okay, so just to make sure it's on the record, yes, that is for the complaint forms that we're aligning. The online and the paper form look different, so we just made those similar, and we're working on the translations for both. For the second piece, the new staff have all their own specific positions that aren't with CCPO. That is a future question that I can't answer at this point.
Okay. And then
Madam Chair.
just going back to the documents, are you doing this also with the MPD internal affairs complaint form, or is that up to them?
That's up to them.
Okay, thank you.
Just as a side note, we are giving our updated complaint forms also to the precincts and IA, so they have our information for any civilians that come there as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gillespie. Were you wanting to say something?
Well, yes, to the commissioner's question about staffing, I think Director Jefferson at the next meeting can provide more detail about staffing and who we now have on board and what those roles and responsibilities are. And again, to Lily's point, they are not just for the CCPO. So,
thank you. Are there any other questions about this presentation? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, number 7, our new agenda item is discussion about commission work according to the ordinance. And compliance. Okay. So I'm not sure what how you envision this going, but I'm just gonna look through and make sure that everyone knows what it says under powers. So under item I, powers, it says the commission may request programs of research and study to be conducted with the Civil Rights Department, including requesting complaint, investigation, and discipline records. I won't keep reading. In my head, that was going to be born, the work of that would come from our, what are you called? Our work group called Police Policy Research and Recommendations. And after that group works on that and brings their recommendation to the commission would then, as a whole, discuss them and decide how we want to move forward or how we want to direct that work group to move forward. Number 2 is collect, review, and audit summary data and compile aggregate statistics relating to the programs of research and study, such as patterns related to complaints of police officer misconduct, and present results of such analysis on a periodic basis to City Council, Mayor, and Chief of Police. And I think this is also going to come initially from that work group who is dedicated to doing that, and they will bring back what they recommend that we do to the commission, and we as a whole group at that point would decide, make decisions. Number 3, make recommendations to the City Council, Mayor, and or Chief of Police relating to police department practices, internal controls, collective bargaining agreements, and other related matters contained within a program of research and study. It's broken record time, but again, that's something that will be birthed from the police policy recommendations and research work group, as well as number 4, recommend training as a result of the research and study process. Number 5 is create and implement a community outreach program and coordinate outreach activities with the Commission on Civil Rights. That work is going to start in the community engagement work group and come to us as recommendations, ideas, suggestions, what have you. And then again, we as a whole commission would weigh in on what we would like to see happen. Where are we? Oh, there we are. Number 6, thank you. Contribute to the annual performance review of Chief of Police. That is yet to be determined. I'm just going to be honest. That's yet to be determined. I don't know what we would, I think we can all agree that we would like to be involved, but I don't know how that's going to flesh out. And honestly, we may have missed this year's, so it might be something that a 2020, what year is next year? A 2024, June 1, 2024 group, which will have 8 potentially new members, would be working on. But what I am trying to do is find out the timeline of that process so that it, you know, the potentiality of it happening next time is greater. Number 7, recommend clear, detailed processes for complaint investigations and other necessary policies that build in safeguards against community members who are vulnerable to retaliation. And I hate to keep harping on Commissioner Shanfield's work group, but I think some of that is going to come from there. But if other commissioners feel differently about it, then this is our discussion time, and this would be when you would weigh in with your thoughts. And number 8, recommend policies that protect against, oh, did I read that already? No. Recommend policies that protect against retaliation for police officers who may fall under the category of whistleblowers or are vulnerable to retaliation. That is another heaping serving for the police policy research and recommendations work group. And, oh, that's it. Those are the 8 things. So, yes, Commissioner Olson.
Commissioner Olson, subsections L and M, although it's organized differently, seem to also have roles for us, mandatory roles.
Okay, let me go to that. I was just reading under the powers. You have to help me find that, please. At where? Oh, the next page. Okay, thank you. Oh, duh. Okay.
There's one under section M.
I-K-L. Oh. Okay, for number L, the commission shall conduct a public hearing at least once per year addressing police department policies, rules, practices, and special orders. The commission shall determine which police department policies, rules, practices, or special orders shall be subjects of the hearing. And that is something that the community engagement work group will work on and recommend. And again, our year, once per year, our year is June 1 through May 31st. So it just needs to occur before then. And what was the other one? Oh, right below, thank you. The commission shall review and provide the public with its analysis and recommendation within 120 days of the proposed changes to all policies, procedures, and special orders of the police department which govern use of force or other subject matters addressed in federal or state court orders or federal or state court settlements which pertain to the police department. And was everyone copied on an email, a SharePoint or something like that email, or everybody was? I'm asking. It came, who is the attorney, the attorney that's working on implementation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In my office, there's a multiple personnel implementation team, it's called, regarding the consent agreements, but I believe it probably was Jennifer Saunders who is the manager of that program.
I don't, probably so, I don't remember. But she's created a SharePoint, I don't know if it's called a document or a drive, where these items will be added, and I think she said you were going to be alerted when something's been added to it. So discussion with that would be driven by us being alerted that something was added to it. So we have wording. And I think I asked if she could provide old wording and new wording. And I have not seen anything on there yet. I have not looked in some days, but if anybody else has, let me know. Yes.
Just for clarification, it's an email we should look from Jennifer Saunders, Saunders. Thank you.
I will find it and forward it just so everybody can see the email in case you don't have it. But yes, there is an email creating a SharePoint or something like that. Commissioner Peterson?
I believe it may have come from in Amani, Carolina, potentially.
That's likely correct. She's also a member of the implementation team from the city attorney's office.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's just a shared drive. I don't know why I was calling it a SharePoint. Thank you.
It was dated, the email was sent to us on September 29th.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will still find it and forward it just so if I'm going to send it anyway, just so it's at the top of your list. Yes, Commissioner Gurrian Sherman.
Thank you. I just want to point out that both Section L and Section M are mandates. It says the commission shall. So we have to do those things. All of the powers fall under the commission may. So with even if the community engagement group has agreed to meet 2 hours a month, I don't know if that's going to happen with the police policy and research. Just meeting 2 hours a month, I don't see how we could possibly get to all 7 of these powers, plus the M section, which would go under the PPR. I'm wondering if what we might want to do is work on tonight or table for the next meeting so that we have time to think about it, priorities. Which of these 7 plus the L and M are first priority, first tier, second tier, third tier? Not to take away from any of them, but just to take into consideration the time that we have and trying to make the last half of the 6 months something that all of the commissioners, whether they're serving 1 or 2 years, something that they can really dig their teeth into. Because each one of these things requires us to go back to OPCR and the civil rights staff and say, what do we need to know? I think in a lot of these cases, we're going to be starting from scratch. We don't know where to get the information. We don't know who it's going to come from. We don't know what it looks like. And I just think that we really need to kind of delve into 1 or 2 of these so that we can give some direction to the police policy research group in terms of what we think the priorities should be.
I agree, and I will suggest that we not try to come to a decision on this tonight. There is a document that I'm sure we all visit every day just to make sure what's up there with rosters of the work groups, and then there is a completely empty page of community organizations that we might want to partner with. I will create a 3rd tab and include all of these items under powers that we may exercise, and then the other 2 L and M mandated powers. And because I'm concerned about having a meeting, but we can individually visit a shared document and if you want to comment on your thoughts on priorities of the different powers that we may exercise, I'm going to ask that you compile them there. And then so at least when we come back in November, we have somewhere to start, and we, you know, you've had time to think about it. Yes, Commissioner Lohr.
I'd like to suggest as well that as we develop those priorities, I think it's probably likely that we are going to recognize certain emerging priorities as we've served on panels. So I would say that any discussion of those priorities needs to be one that is not fixed in stone, such that as we develop the work of the commission, we can identify where our own work on those panels sees emerging trends and, for example, where we might need to recommend policy as a result of what we've experienced.
For sure. As we learn things, that those priorities are sure to change. And thank you for that comment. Commissioner Gurry Sherman.
I think we might want to add to not only what the priorities are, but just brainstorm amongst ourselves. You know, what is it that we think we would need so that we can inform each other? Maybe some people have more experience or have dealt with some of the things. I'm just looking at number 3, and it contains a lot. Number 3 is make recommendations to the City Council, the Mayor, and the Chief of Police related to 1, police department practices, 2, internal controls, 3, collective bargaining agreements, which is completely different, and other related matters contained within a program of research and study. So just that one power gets into 4 different areas, and they each need different
I agree
documents.
with what you're saying, and I'm still going to ask if we have to be committed to actually visit this document when it's created, and maybe I'll send some reminders that the document is out there, but I just think that it's more fair and more productive to give us time to really read again and think about it and maybe write something down and come back to it. And so between now and the next meeting, we should have lots of thoughts and be able to start narrowing down on priorities.
Yes, I think that brainstorming is great. Can we make a commitment that it will be on the agenda for November?
Yes, but I will ask that you send me an email to remind me by the due date of agenda items.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
Yes, Lewis Smith. It also occurs to me that our work groups can be a place where discussions of priorities can be generated, where we, at least not individually, but collectively, do some brainstorming about that. So I thought that might be a
Oh, for
thing
sure.
our
There
work
was there was a question at lunch with Lisa about, oh, there's so many policies. Is your work group going to work on all of them? Absolutely not. They're going to narrow down to some top priorities that they feel like they can accomplish and work on those. I wouldn't say how many, but yes, the scope of work can be narrowed in the work group to something that makes sense and is workable. Thank you. Commissioner Lohr.
Commissioner Lohr, I'd like to just ask a clarifying question regarding the power related to, or the mandate to reply within 120 days to policy changes relating to police. Are those policies going to be updated on that SharePoint drive? How will we be alerted to the presence of a new policy such that we can make a timely response?
I will verify, but I thought whoever sent us that email said we would get an alert, but I'll verify.
Thank you.
Commissioner Shanfield.
Yes, Mara Shanfield. They are there. And I'm also wondering, this is a question just for us to sort of noodle on, is how will the consent decrees impact any of this? This was written before those, and I know in the MPD listening sessions, part of the purpose there was to then draft updates to the policies, and now they're looking at the data from those sessions. So I'm curious what you all think about timing and whether that is impacted by, like when this would be important to take a look at.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna need you to repeat your question.
Yep, sure, no problem. Wondering when we might, the 120 days sounds like imminent. However, wondering how the consent decree and what's required of MPD under that for updating their policies will impact our timeline.
That is not a me question. If someone. Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would agree, Madam Chair and Commissioners, and certainly you've established the connection to the implementation team from the City Attorney's Office that I mentioned, and I think it's definitely beneficial to keep those channels open and to ask questions and funnel it through them. Those individuals their entire job focus is on implementing the consent decrees and working with those requirements.
And they would provide the updates.
Yeah, and they've already, it sounds like, shared updates and process to get those updates, and I think that if you keep those channels open, you should be able to work closely with them on an ongoing basis.
Commissioner Gurian Sherman.
I wonder if it would be fruitful to have members of that team give a presentation to us, a 10 or 15-minute presentation. It may not be the right time to do it because I know you're still trying to get the independent monitoring team on board. I don't know if that will affect what Commissioner Schoenfeld is saying. But I think at some point at the November or December meeting, it would be good to have members from that team come in and tell us where we fit in. Do we provide our recommendations before it goes to their team or after? I think it would be good to get some guidance from them on where we fit in and where this language fits in. Because our language in the ordinance preceded the consent decree. So it makes it a little difficult to figure out where we fit in.
I will check on that to see if somebody can come and talk to us about it.
But I will also add that the language in the ordinance, it did precede the consent decree, but we were in conversations with MDHR as we were creating this ordinance, so knowing that that consent decree was coming. So all of those things were taken into account.
Thank you. Commissioner Sturm.
Commissioner Sturm, I was saying it seems to me pretty straightforward. We look at the date on the memo that the chief changed the policy, add 120 days, and then we just put it on the agenda. I don't know, it doesn't have to be that complicated. And there's like all sorts of things that could happen or would happen and might happen, but that's all just opaque to us.
Thank you. I agree. So we are on discussion item 7, talking about the work of the commission. Does anybody else have any other thoughts? So based on this, I'm going to create a new tab on our very favorite worksheet where the rosters and the sign up for community organizations that we might work with. I'm going to create another tab, and I'm not sure how I'm going to format it, but it'll be a place where we can virtually brainstorm, share ideas, so that we can come in November and have the discussion about narrowing our priorities for our work. And the second thing I'm going to do is resend that email with the shared drive. November's agenda will have an item to discuss the work priorities. My writing is bad, that's why I'm like, all these pauses, like, what does this say? Okay, I'm gonna find out if it's possible for someone to come and talk about, from the city attorney's office, to come and talk about these issues with us. And that's it. Was there something else I promised up that I've forgotten? Okay. Is there any other discussion about item number 7, talking about the work of the commission? Okay, hearing none, the next item, which is our new number 8, is to discuss norms for communication and engagement, to discuss communication with the public in light of us having these new email addresses. I don't have any comment on this subject right now, but Commissioner Sturm?
I don't think I voted on this because I don't think we can enforce time limits on each other on this sort of, like,
Well, there was a little more with other than time limits, and I said I don't have anything, but I do have something. I think now bears it's a time to remind everyone that no one of us speaks for the commission, and so I wouldn't be out. I think when my only time being out in the public talking about the commission was at lunch with Lisa, and I made it clear to say there were a couple of questions, and I was just like, well, the commission does not have a stand on this, but and it wasn't anything like serious, but I made a point of making it clear that this was Mary answering the question and not a commissioner from the CCPO. But I think this is a time for us to just be reminded that if there is something to come from the commission, it will come from the chair, and that we individually are not to be out speaking for the commission. But that's just that little tidbit. Commissioner Gurry Sherman.
Yeah, those are the kind of discussions, and I think we need to lay out some norms. I think that it would, with the governance committee kind of being not able to meet on other things, I think it might be good if they could meet and develop norms for how we communicate with the public and engage the public. There was some testy exchanges, especially regarding public comment, and I think that we need to keep moving forward and refining how we, not only how we say things, but who's going to say things. I agree we can't necessarily say all emails will be answered by a certain time, but we can certainly have norms that say efforts will be made to. And I think it's, while the governance committee doesn't have something to work on right now, norms for how we engage the community. This is a big part, public engagement, meaningful public engagement is all over the consent decrees and the investigations. I think it'd be good to use our own norms as a basis for developing norms for how we want to interact with the community.
How about this? I don't want them to do a whole lot of work on this either, because it's possible, is that in the rules or bylaws that are being? Yeah, that's my concern, to start doing things and then we get something that says different. But how about this? If our governance ad hoc work group could put together some, similar to our meeting norms, just some general guidelines on communication and engagement with the public. And that could also, and you could, I don't want to jump in here anytime.
Paul Olson, I volunteered for that committee. I'm just not sure the three of us have a lot of expertise in that right now.
Okay, that's fair, yep.
It's certainly something we can think about and talk about, but just, I don't have an idea sitting right here what we would do that would make a lot of sense.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you to sit right here and tell us. Well, I was going to say, but thank you for that. Commissioner Clement, did you want to add something before?
Is it not already a rule, and I'm honestly asking that prior to communicating with the public outside of just curiosity emails or things that are basic communication, that we should be going through yourself or Mrs. Reeves or
I don't
Mr.
bel-
Jefferson or?
I don't believe that that is written down anywhere that we have that we have received. Yes.
Madam Chair, I would just add, only to the extent that, as you mentioned just previously, an individual commissioner is not able to representatively speak for the commission. So if you spoke in front of some group, you know, it would not be on behalf of the commission. But those are considerations that certainly could be discussed, whether you're asked to talk to any group whatsoever. What's the process? Do you notify the chair? Do you notify the commission? Those are certainly valid topics of discussion.
So what I am going to ask on this handy dandy worksheet that is growing, I'm going to add a tab that if we could, keeping in mind that we may receive something that kind of trumps whatever it is we come up with, but just some basic norms for communicating. I think the concern about trying to regulate people's response time is valid. That was a concern before we got the emails and something that was discussed, you know, in whether the, anyway, something that was discussed. So if we could just maybe, I'll just create another tab, and if we want to have some just general guidelines with the caveat that they may look different when we receive the official document. And it'll be something that we can all see, just like the other tab that I'm creating with our virtual brainstorming that we're going to do. So I am hesitant to try to put something official and like with a bunch of details in it because it may become obsolete if we receive different guidance from the city. So if that's okay, that's how we'll handle that. I'll have another tab on this spreadsheet. And I'll try to send some reminders that the spreadsheet is out there and what the ask is for commissioners regarding the spreadsheet. Commissioner Sturm.
This might not be relevant. I just want to clarify that in my capacity as Ward 11 Commissioner, if somebody emails me, I have an email to respond with and not just take it in. So I'm going to be responding to emails to people, you know, in my capacity as Commissioner, not representing the Commission, but.
Correct. And by my statement, I meant, so when you respond to someone from Ward 11, we wouldn't, or to Ward 7, I wouldn't say the commission believes blah, 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 when the commission has not said that that's something that we believe or that we plan to do, or, you know what I'm saying? That's all I meant by that statement. I mean, you get the email. It's only courteous to respond in some sort of way. Commissioner Gurian Sherman.
Can we also include this on the November agenda?
Include the communication norms.
Revisit this discussion based on whatever is put in that tab.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we'll do that just like the work priority.
So this is something that we'll work on as a commission.
Yes, but I am encouraging us not to put a whole lot of work into this because we don't know what the document we're going to receive from the city clerk's office is going to look like, and I don't want anybody to feel like that they have wasted a bunch of time working on a document that we then throw away.
I hope that the document from the city will include particular language that we can use. On another commission I sat on in Maryland, when all of us got an email, we were required to say, if we were responding individually, I am not responding for the commission, I am only responding for myself, and there was other guidance given. For instance, if you wanted to take that email and then say, I would like to suggest that this go on the agenda. I don't know what's going to be included, but there are examples of what we might be able to do to address emails and also keep the public satisfied that we're addressing their questions and concerns.
Thanks. And I think something like a note at the top of your email. I am not responding on behalf of the commission. It's something that could be included in a norm. I think that's straightforward enough. Commissioner Reeves.
Thank you, Commissioner Reeves. I think it'd be helpful that when we get emails that have all of us attached, that the chair responds. I think if we get individual emails from our ward members, then we can respond and say that we're not representing. But when I look at emails that have everyone attached, my thought is that the chair needs to respond to that email, because that's obviously coming to the entire commission, and the chair should respond to that. Otherwise, there's maybe 13 or 15 individual responses to that email, especially if we don't copy all. And so I think for a norm, if everyone is copied, I think the chair should respond to that email. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, that's something you could include when I share this tab for this worksheet. Thank you. Are there any other thoughts, comments? Okay, so for this item, which was item 8, discussing communication, what I am going to do is add a tab to this worksheet and let everybody know it exists. And we will add our thoughts on potential communication norms there. And if there is nothing else, we're going to move now to, what am I, item 9, the chair report. Okay. My report didn't really have anything new other than, trying to save us some time. Where is my, oh, there it is. It didn't really have anything new. I just like to repeat how you can sign up to receive announcements when there are things posted for CCPO. That's up at the very top. And then under trainings, we have already, it's not, well, I guess it is a training. There aren't any new community engagement sessions, but there is an opportunity to sign up for some community connection learning labs. And a couple of, one of them might be going on either tonight or tomorrow during our training, but there's still 6 sessions remaining. The first one was effectively planning for community engagement, and I have reached out to NCR, Neighborhood and Community Relations, who is providing these learning labs, to see if it's possible for them to come and talk to us or give us something that we might read. There's one tomorrow, Immigrant and Refugee Affairs and Community Considerations, but the ones that are still left are American Indian Community and Effective Engagement, and there's the same for the Southeast Asian community, the Latino community. There is a disability awareness one, an African American community and effective engagement, and an East African community and effective engagement. And there's one on youth engagement that they haven't put a date on. But you don't have to do the whole course. If you were able to do the whole course, you get like a certificate saying that you have this I don't know, you get a certificate. But I did them a few years ago, and they're really very interesting. So even if you are only available for one, I think it would be useful to pop in and listen to it, because they kind of talk about some of the differences in how you would approach these different communities, you know, weighing in like trust factors and methods of communication. But if you're available on any of these days, I looked this afternoon and the registration link was still open, and you get to pick which ones that you would like to go to. There's a session in the morning, and then they repeat it, not necessarily on the same date, but they repeat it in the evening as well. So if you look at it and you're available for any of these, I really encourage you to go. I thought they were very interesting. And I felt it was time spent well. Also, you'll notice yes, Commissioner Lohr.
Just for clarity, where do we find information about those?
I will send you the link, but it's in the chair report, which you can access from the agenda.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. They really are very interesting, and it's put together really nicely. And somebody, either from the community or a staff member who is an expert in that community, does the presentation, and it was really interesting, I thought. Okay, you'll also note in my report that in new business, we're going to vote on meeting dates so we can have them officially noted in our minutes and they can be posted. Yes. Commissioner Gurry and Sherman.
That's okay. That's okay. I have a request for the chair's report. I like that you have the upcoming community events and a particular subtitle for the Department of Justice and the Minneapolis community sessions by the police department. I'm wondering if we could also include an ongoing information for the police federation and city contract negotiations. At the last meeting, I indicated the negotiations were, the third negotiation was happening today, but it actually got switched to the 13th, almost immediately after our meeting, and it's been noted. So there is a meeting this Friday from 9 a.m. to 12. My understanding is that they are virtual, although they meet in this room. And I just think given that power number 3 that talked about collective bargaining agreements, we should be on top of that if anyone can attend. I'm committed to attending all of them. And there is some really big news going on with the Police Federation proposing a 1-year contract only to cover financial wages and nothing else. And so it's a very big topic.
So I'm going to ask that you, there used to be a note, forgive me if there is not, there on my chair report to let me know if there are things that you would like for me to include, because I would love for this list to be extensive. This is just all the information I had. So if you have things like that, just send them to me and say, this is for the chair report for community engagement type meetings.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think that is it for my report. Next on the agenda, I think it's number 10 now, are work group updates. And I'm not asking for a blow-by-blow of everything you have done, because in the future, these work group updates, all the work groups received a little report template that I would like for the information that you have to be shared on, so that it's kind of consistent. We're hearing the same type thing from every work group. But for now, I'm just asking to just update us on just generalities of what it is that you are, we're about to get kicked out, about what you are working on. So if we could hear from the Police Policy Research and Recommendations Group.
Thank you, Commissioner Shanfield. Let's see, the short, excuse me, the short version is first a shout out to the two folks from OPCR who've introduced themselves, Sams and Ramyanya. Thank you so much for agreeing to look into what other cities are doing. They're coming up and looking at comparative policies. They're going to share that with our group when we meet next to look at some other cities that are under consent decrees, so we can kind of have a sense of what that could look like. Chris Band from OPCR has also agreed to present aggregate data to our work group quarterly about results from the panel's recommended discipline, of course in aggregate, and then formally to the commission on an annual basis, so that, to your point earlier, Commissioner Lohr, that we can start to see what policies we might need to revise based on what we're seeing in the panels. We've got a place to store our work on SharePoint. It will be open to anyone who wants to pop in there on this commission here. And our next meeting will be October 18th at 5:30 p.m. Via Teams. Let's see, any other thing? Yes, one other thing was in advance of that meeting, I've asked the group members to review the old PCOC research and study process and make comments on the document in terms of ways that you'd like to see it updated. In order to do any sort of research and study, we have to have a clear protocol and process for that. So once we, that will be our first order of business next week. And I promise to use the template in the future.
That's okay. Next time, I will be reminding the work group, whatever we're calling them, leaders, that I am asking for a report on that little form, and they'll be included on the agenda. But this time, I didn't expect that anybody had a lot to report, so I didn't ask. So, but thank you. Are there any questions regarding the police policy research and recommendations work group? Okay, thank you. Are there any community engagement work group updates?
Yes, Madam Chair, our group met last Thursday. We briefly reviewed the ordinance authority on community outreach, including the items L&M that we discussed this evening. We had some brainstorming discussion about developing a community engagement plan for the commission. We were very mindful that we don't want to reinvent the wheel, that there's a Department of Justice community outreach process, there's a Minnesota Department of Human Rights outreach process, MPD outreach processes, so and then we have some call to interact with that, so we want to be mindful of that. We did discuss the idea of some ward-based outreach meetings that would perhaps group wards together and also work strongly with neighborhood organizations and other organizations to have the commission be out in the community, be accountable to the work we're doing already, but also get input. We had some discussion about this community engagement and outreach process being trauma-informed and getting access to expertise in the community from psychologists and social workers who have really committed to a healing community trauma. We had a discussion about bringing experts to the commission, like the women's human rights presentation we had about 2 meetings ago. We thought of others that might be in that group. We had some discussion about community access to the complaint process, and so we already heard from the earlier report this evening from Ms. Hastings, something along those lines. I think we'll have it would be great if we could have some interaction with the civil rights or OPCR staff, because we, again, don't want to reinvent the wheel. Just the existence of this community mediation team and the culturally based approach, I think, would be a great resource for us to be aware of and bring. And we had some discussion about reaching out to the Office of Neighborhood and Community Relations and the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Belonging group for gaining expertise from them. We committed to meeting twice a month. We're not Teams people, we're Zoom people. And we will meet the first Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. and the third Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. Our next meeting will be next Wednesday, October 18th at 6 p.m. We are committed to having our meetings posted on the commission calendar with the Zoom link accessible. Our community or our work group consensus is that community members will be invited to attend and join in, but will be muted so that the work group can have a discussion among ourselves. And then we'll have a community comment period at the end of our meetings and have commissioners that are able to stay and engage with those comments. That's our report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Commissioner Smith about the community engagement work group? Oh, Commissioner Gurian Sherman.
Yes, I have a question for us as a commission. I've been asking since May, our first meeting, for a flow chart that includes where CCPO fits into the Office of Civil Rights and the Office of Police Conduct Review. I'm having a hard time explaining to people where we fit. We keep being shown flow charts that either have the old iteration of the review, the groups that did the review panels. So one or the other of our work groups, or maybe both, have to work to try to come up with that flow chart. And the other thing I think that we're not all on the same page about is we need another flow chart that chronicles what happens from the time a complaint is filed with either the Civil Rights Division or Internal Affairs, and I don't believe there's any other avenue to file a complaint. And then how does it flow through CCPO? We make a merit or non-merit decision, and then what happens after that? My understanding, it goes to an all-police review board at that point. It goes through a Laudermill hearing. It can go to arbitration. And so I think we need to be able to explain when we go out and do public presentations how we fit into the city structure and also what is the exact complaint process. And it may be different than it has been because of the consent decree and the one coming up. But I think those two flowcharts are really important. And I'm wondering, I'm asking the staff too, how do we work with staff and each other to get those flowcharts done?
We're Lily Hastings. Thank you.
We do actually have those available, so we can get those to you. That explain the entire complaint process from when it comes to our door to when it leaves our door, through CCPO, through getting to the chief. We have the timelines, the flow chart, we have that. So we can get that to you. And then the other part was the CCPO. Can you
That's
repeat the
it.
second? Okay.
Thank you
So we
very
have
much. That would be great to have that. And then I did have two quick questions.
Just real quick, the other thing was a flow chart of where CCPO sits
within the
The-
city structure. I
yeah.
thought that was one of the flowcharts that you
Oh,
said we had, that there were two.
Yes, that specific flow chart of where CCPO sits is still being constructed.
Okay, great. Oh, it's being constructed.
That one is being constructed. The ones of how the process works is created, and we can share that.
Great. So we've got one in progress and one that can be provided.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I'm just going to ask for clarification to make sure that we're hearing you correctly. The one you, in terms of the flow chart about when a complaint comes in and where the CCPO is in that process, that exists. In terms of org chart, we have an organizational chart that shows where the CCPO falls under the Civil Rights Department. Is that what you're asking for?
Yes,
'Cause
just
we
a
do-
basic,
We have that.
basic
as well.
organization. Because
That's
the
not
other
in
ones
work.
we've been shown have the previous iteration of this group, didn't
Okay.
have CCPO. So if it has CCPO in it, that's great.
We have that. We can provide you that as well.
Great. And then a quick question. Since we have decided as a group to make our work group meetings public, including the Zoom link, who in the city, or how do we get that information to the city so that it then gets posted?
The suggestion was to add it to the CCPO calendar, and I will just have to verify how that works, but that was the suggestion. So just like when you go to CCPO, there's some link where you can say, I want to participate in a meeting, and then like a linear list shows up. You can click calendar, and the whole month will show, and my thought is they're asking for it to show up, you know, both on a linear list, but on a calendar, you could see everything. And so that is what we will verify can happen.
So can that happen for our October 18th meeting?
I will find out.
Thank you.
So yes.
I'm sorry to belabor this, Commissioner Shanfield. I don't know that we agreed to that per se by work group, so I was thinking that would be actually on our agenda for next week, is to discuss that as a work group.
Right, I'm just saying that the Community Engagement Committee agreed on it.
Yes. Thank
We're
you.
on both
And
groups, you're going to have to be in two places at once.
And that is for the work groups to decide. So thank you for asking that clarifying question. Is there anything else about community engagement and the work group? No. All right. Governance, we have put you on the spot with your brand new tab on this sheet, but would you like to share anything?
Some of us had just started doing research, but that's where we are right now.
Okay, thank you. And again, this is a group that's kind of waiting for this new document to be shared. But are there any governance-related questions? None? Thank you very much. Okay, let me find my agenda. I believe we are now to, I don't know what item it is, but we are now to, did that pass? Public comment before new business? It didn't, no, okay. My apologies. We're gonna move on to new business. So we need to take, we okay? Oh, y'all, I'm tired. We need to take a formal vote to approve the meeting dates for 2024. And according to that informal poll that we did, the second Monday of each month was the preferred day for those meetings. Commissioner Reeves?
I was not aware that, Commissioner Reeves, I was not aware that that was the poll result. I am unavailable every second Monday of the month. I would have to make something happen. I didn't know that was the poll result, so I'll have to figure it out. Thank you.
Yeah, I shared it, and it's been in the chair report for a couple of months now. Okay, with all that in mind, those dates would be January 8th, February 12th, March 12th, April 8th, May 13th, and June 10th. And you will notice they stop at June 10th. I will not be the chair of this commission after the May 3rd. Well, I guess I'll be the chair till May 31st, but I will not be the chair June 10th. But I did want to try to go ahead and get at least one date on the calendar for the potentially new group. So those are the only ones that we're voting on tonight. Somebody can decide if we want to vote on the rest of the year at some point, but tonight we're just voting on those. So, is there a motion to approve the 2024 meeting schedule for January through June 2024?
So
Commissioner
moved.
It's been moved by Commissioner Gurion Sherman. Is there a seconded by Commissioner Lohr that we approve the second Monday of each month, January through June, for 2024 meetings? Is there any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor to approve these dates I just read, please raise your hands. I see 9.
Yes, I see 9 as
Thank
well.
you. All those opposed? Okay, we don't take extensions. But with, with 9, y'all, I'm sorry. With 9 in favor and no opposed, that motion is adopted. And so Ms. Watts will get the dates on the calendar now because they are official because we voted on them. All right, the next thing that we need to vote on is to approve the November 2023 meeting date. So it was originally going to be the 15th of November. Yes, it was originally going to be the 14th of November, but that is the week that 2 or 3 staff and the chair and the vice chair will be in Chicago at a NACOL conference. So the date that is available to have this room is November 8th. So that is what I'm looking for a motion for, to reschedule our November meeting to November 8th. And side note, if you all vote no on this, I believe the alternative is to have no meeting.
So moved to have the next meeting on November 8th. Commissioner Reeves.
It's been moved by Commissioner Reeves to have the meeting in November on November 8th. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Commissioner Peterson. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Shanfield.
Just a quick question. I was under the impression via email that we were going to do the meeting on the Monday.
We were, but the room's not available.
Oh. Could we do it virtually?
I don't think we are allowed to have virtual meetings. That is what I was told. But no, we can't. So, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of rescheduling our November meeting to November 8th, please raise your hands. I see 7. You
Yep.
can lower your hands. Thank you. All those opposed to rescheduling to November 8th, raise your hands. I see 3. Thank you. You can lower your hands. And with a, what did I say? 7. Thank you. With a vote for 7 in favor and 3 opposed, the motion is adopted. And our next meeting will be November 8th at 6 o'clock in this room. The next thing to vote on is a December meeting date. And I believe, and correct me if I am wrong, I believe we got bumped by City Council to use this room. That is correct. They trump us. So what are you going to do? But the recommended date is Monday, December 11th. So is there a motion?
It's under construction.
That was a great suggestion, but no can do, apparently. Okay, is there a motion to reschedule our December meeting to December 11th? It's been moved by Commissioner Lohr, second by Commissioner Gurian-Sherman, that we reschedule our December meeting to Monday, December 11th. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of rescheduling our December meeting to December 11th, please raise your hands. I see 10. Thank you. In favor. All those opposed to rescheduling to December 11th? I see none. The vote is unanimous to reschedule our December meeting to December 11th. So that is when it will be, and the calendar will be updated. Okay, we are now to item 14, 13, which is public comment. And I will just remind anyone who would like to make a public comment that you kind of have to get close to this mic and speak into it. And please say your name and your ward where you reside. Thank you. Oh, and please adhere to the 2-minute limit. Thank you.
So I have Benin Richard. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Or Byron. Okay, next.
Thanks for letting us know that.
Okay, next we have Mike Roberts.
If you could come and use the mic.
I'm not sure if this is correct. I haven't been to one of your meetings before. So if I'm out of line, you'll press this.
Okay, there's a little button, like a little, yes. Thank you.
I'm Mike Roberts. I'm in Ward 9. I think I'm in your ward. I'm near Powderhorn. And I first want to say that when I came about 10 years ago, I noticed that the policing was entirely different. And I really wanted to figure out what was going on. So I went to the block leader group. They had a training at the precinct. And I kind of just, I talked to a lot of police officers. And I noticed one thing that was at the top of the list all the time was off-duty work. And I heard the term warlord come up a lot, which is kind of I guess a very unofficial term, but at each precinct. And that person doles out the off-duty work. And it's kind of open to a little bit of, I don't know what the right word is. It seems like that person decides who gets to work where, and they really have to be on good terms with this person. And also the police they can use their squad with approval, they can use their badge, they can use their equipment. And to the public, I have people constantly saying, oh, that guy's watching somebody build a road. I said, well, I think he's off duty. Well, he sure looks like he's a cop that's on duty. And so the public is always constantly unaware of whether this person is working on their shift or off duty.
10 seconds left.
What's that?
10 seconds remaining.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
One other thing is that the police department's had a lot of problems with off-duty work being tax evaded. There's some nepotism. There's a lot of problems with that. And I know that Mendota Heights has an excellent model.
Thank you. If I could ask you,
It's okay.
if you could email me what the rest of your comment, or
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, and I don't want to. I mean, you know, this is their job. They make a lot of money doing this. I don't really want to stir up the police department too much, but I think it's something that needs to be looked at.
Thank you. Yeah. If you just email us.
Okay, I'll email you if
Okay.
you want.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Gurry Sherman.
Yes, Mr. Roberts, thanks for your comment. Minneapolis for a Better Police contract has taken up bid assignments, and the City Council is taking a very close look at off-duty work. And so it is definitely going to be, it's something we hope gets discussed during bargaining. I would love to talk to you more about it. Your
Thank you.
insights
If
are
y'all, if
wonderful.
y'all could connect afterward, we're going to try to keep the train going. Thank you, though.
Okay, next we have Dave Bicking.
Hi, yes, I'm Dave Bicking, Ward 8, and I want to thank Mike because that is such an important topic, and I hope everyone here knows that the warlord for the 3rd Precinct was Derek Chauvin. Anyhow, I hope you all received my email yesterday, and maybe hopefully had time to look at some of that, so I won't go over that again. I do think it is shocking that you were not informed about a city council meeting that Director Jefferson is giving tomorrow. I'd really encourage you to go to that or watch that online during it or after it to see, you know, what they're saying about the progress. I'm sorry, but I have not seen progress. There's administrative progress, but I don't see much progress at all towards getting at the work that you need to be doing. I hope next month I can comment on some substantive issue. Even more important is that on October 16th at 1:30, the Policy and Government Oversight Commission is having a public hearing on boards and commissions. So this is where you can actually go and say what you think. You know that the rules around boards and commissions have caused you a great deal of trouble. I think some of them have been interpreted wrongly, but in any sense, they're all up for grabs here. The other commissions were the people in charge of them were notified of this back over 3 weeks ago so that commissions could discuss any, what they wanted to take as a position, and some of them have already done that. I don't know if Director Jefferson wasn't privy to that or whether he just didn't tell you.
Thank you, and your time has expired.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next is Janet Nye.
Oh, you might have signed, like, you were signing in like you were present, maybe. So
Okay.
no comment? Okay, thank you.
And then last we have Howard Dotson.
Evening, Chair, Commissioners. I wanted to lift up tomorrow's public health and safety, because I was there last meeting at council when there was concerns raised by several of our BIPOC Muslim representatives on the council that with this counterterrorism grant that is being considered, that their experience has been that they feel like it's lopsided, and that there's a profiling that happened for the Muslim residents that participated in that program before. I've shared my concerns with the mayor and the police chief and the fire chief that we need a PSA for the BIPOC community because of the rise in white nationalist hate crimes. DOJ has listed domestic terrorists as the highest threat, and it's out of sync, I think, with some of post 9/11. We think everything the threats are from Muslims. I've worked in mosques for the last 6 years, helping them with Syrian refugees. I've heard a lot of experiences that they feel about profiling. We saw it with NYPD. We continue to see it now with this escalation with Israel, Gaza. When the 4 mosques were attacked, there was an alert that went out to the synagogues, but there was no alert that went out from DOJ to the mosques. We've had 2 Muslim businesses targeted, one on University, another one in Columbia Heights. So I'm asking for a PSA from our leadership to protect the BIPOC community, because when Trump goes to jail, you're going to see a severe spike in political violence and hate crimes. The BIPOC community deserves to know they have a bullseye on their back. We have a responsibility to protect them.
Thank you.
That's it for public comment.
All righty. Since there are no further community members wishing to make a comment, I want to thank each of you for your presence and your comments tonight. Thank you to our guest for her presentation. Our next regular meeting will be, let me make sure I get it right, Wednesday, November 8th at 6 p.m. in this location. Thank you to each commissioner present tonight, again, our guests and OPCR staff for your assistance. And at 8:26, we are adjourned. Thank you.
I just wanted to introduce myself.